The morning mist clung to the Norwegian fjords like a shroud as Lieutenant Jack Churchill adjusted his grip on the medieval longbow, strapped across his back. It was March 15th, 1941, and the British commando unit crouched in the rocky terrain above the German-occupied fishing village of Vagso. The temperature hovered just above freezing, and Churchill's breath formed small clouds as he studied the enemy positions through his field glasses. His fellow commandos had spent weeks mocking what they called his Robin Hood fantasy, convinced that modern warfare had no place for 6-foot yew-staves and steel-tipped arrows. Little did they know that within the next hour, this ancient weapon would prove more decisive than any of their cutting-edge submachine guns or grenades. Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. What unfolded that morning would transform not only the mission's outcome, but also the entire unit's understanding of what truly defined a weapon's effectiveness in the chaos of modern conflict. Churchill had earned his reputation as an eccentric long before the conflict began. Born into a military family in 1896, John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill possessed an unusual combination of classical education and warrior instincts. While his contemporaries studied modern tactical manuals, Churchill immersed himself in medieval combat techniques and archery traditions dating back to Agincourt. His personal longbow, crafted by a traditional bowyer in the English countryside, could drive a bodkin point through oak planking at distances exceeding 100 yards. The German forces occupying Vagso consisted of approximately 200 personnel from the Coastal Defense Battalion, reinforced by elements of the regional garrison. Intelligence reports indicated they possessed standard-issue rifles, machine gun positions, and a modest artillery piece positioned near the harbor. The German commander, Major Klaus Brenner, had established his headquarters in the village's former town hall, with sentries posted at strategic intervals around the perimeter. Brenner himself was no ordinary officer. A veteran of the Polish campaign, he had distinguished himself during the rapid advance through France and earned commendation for his defensive preparations along the Atlantic coast. His men respected his tactical acumen and attention to detail. The major insisted on irregular patrol schedules and varied sentry rotations, making the position particularly challenging for Allied reconnaissance. Captain Robert Morrison, Churchill's commanding officer, had initially resisted including the bow-wielding commando in the operation. Morrison believed in overwhelming firepower and coordinated assaults, viewing Churchill's archaic preferences as dangerous anachronisms. However, Churchill's demonstrated marksmanship and unconventional thinking had proven valuable during training exercises, even if his methods defied military orthodoxy. The mission parameters called for a silent infiltration to gather intelligence on German coastal defenses and communication networks. Secondary objectives included disrupting enemy operations and creating confusion about Allied capabilities in the region. The team's success depended entirely on maintaining stealth until the final extraction phase. Sergeant William Hayes, a demolitions expert from Yorkshire, had repeatedly questioned Churchill's choice of weaponry during their preparation phase. Hayes carried 15 pounds of specialized explosives and considered anything lacking proper chemical propellants to be fundamentally obsolete. Private Tommy Fletcher, the unit's communications specialist, shared similar skepticism about arrows competing against modern firearms. As dawn approached, the commandos observed their target through the gradually lifting fog. The German sentry positions became visible as dark figures moving against the lighter background of wooden buildings. Churchill counted 6 visible guards, maintaining irregular patrols around the village's outer perimeter. Each sentry carried a standard rifle and moved in patterns suggesting professional military training. The primary German observation post occupied a converted fishing shack elevated approximately 15 feet above the harbor on wooden pilings. This position provided commanding views of both the sea approach and the inland routes leading to the village. A single sentry maintained constant watch from this elevated platform, scanning the surrounding terrain with methodical precision. Churchill studied this particular position for nearly 30 minutes, noting the guard's movement patterns and timing intervals. The sentry completed a full rotation every 4 minutes and 20 seconds, spending roughly 40 seconds focused on each compass direction. During the inland observation phase, the guards' attention concentrated on the rocky approaches where the commando team currently waited. The distance from Churchill's position to the elevated observation post measured approximately 95 yards across broken terrain. Morning wind conditions remained minimal, with only slight air movement from the southeast. These factors created nearly ideal conditions for longbow accuracy, though the target's movement and the critical importance of absolute silence added considerable complexity to any potential shot. Captain Morrison's tactical plan called for the team to remain in observation until nightfall, then attempt infiltration under cover of darkness. This conservative approach minimized detection risks, but also extended the mission timeline significantly. Churchill recognized that the elevated sentry position would remain problematic regardless of timing, as the guard's elevated vantage point covered all practical approach routes. The German sentry, Corporal Franz Weber, had served with distinction during the French campaign and possessed keen observational skills. Weber's routine included careful examination of potential hiding spots and irregular timing variations to prevent predictable patterns. His alertness level remained consistently high despite the monotonous nature of his assignment. Churchill made his decision during Weber's third rotation cycle. While his teammates continued planning conventional assault approaches, Churchill quietly removed his longbow from its protective case and selected a single arrow from his quiver. The arrow itself represented traditional English craftsmanship, a 30-inch ash shaft tipped with a 4-inch steel bodkin point, designed for maximum penetration and accuracy. The bow's construction followed medieval specifications with modern materials. The 6-foot yew-stave possessed a draw weight of approximately 130 pounds, requiring significant upper body strength and years of conditioning to operate effectively. Churchill had maintained his archery practice throughout his military career, often drawing curious stares from fellow officers who considered such activities mere recreational pursuits. Morrison noticed Churchill's preparations and immediately moved to intervene. The captain's whispered objections focused on noise concerns and the unpredictable nature of archery compared to suppressed firearms. Churchill calmly explained that a properly executed arrow shot would produce virtually no sound beyond the bow's string release, while even suppressed weapons generated mechanical noise potentially detectable at close range. The debate continued in hushed tones for several minutes while Weber continued his patrol rotation. Fletcher and Hayes joined Morrison in questioning the wisdom of relying on medieval weapons during a modern military operation. Their concerns reflected standard military doctrine, emphasizing proven technologies and standardized equipment. Churchill's approach challenged fundamental assumptions about battlefield effectiveness and technological superiority. Weber completed another rotation cycle, while the British commandos discussed their options. The German corporal's alertness never wavered, and his systematic scanning technique suggested extensive training in observation procedures. Any conventional approach to his position would require either extended waiting periods or coordinated team movements, potentially exposing the entire mission. Churchill finally convinced Morrison to allow one attempt with the longbow, arguing that failure would still leave conventional options available, while success would eliminate a major obstacle silently. The captain reluctantly agreed, but insisted that Churchill abort immediately if any complications arose. The other team members positioned themselves to provide covering fire if the unorthodox approach triggered broader German responses. The wind conditions remained favorable as Churchill nocked his arrow and began drawing the bowstring. The physical process required smooth, controlled movement to avoid creating visual disturbances that might attract attention. Churchill's conditioning allowed him to hold the full draw weight while waiting for optimal timing within Weber's rotation cycle. Weber turned toward the inland approach during his next scanning sequence, presenting a clear profile target against the lighter sky background. The range remained within Churchill's demonstrated accuracy limits, though the elevated angle and target movement introduced additional complexity. Churchill compensated for these factors through instinctive calculations developed during years of practice. The arrow's flight time across 95 yards would approximate 1.5 seconds, requiring precise timing predictions based on Weber's movement patterns. Churchill waited through 2 complete cycles, confirming his timing estimates and ensuring optimal shot placement. His fellow commandos watched in fascinated silence as their unconventional teammate prepared to test medieval technology against modern military positions. Weber paused momentarily during his inland observation phase, apparently focusing on a particular terrain feature. This brief hesitation provided Churchill with an ideal opportunity, as the stationary target eliminated movement prediction requirements. Churchill released the bowstring with practiced smoothness, sending the arrow across the morning air in a silent arc toward the German observation post. The arrow struck Weber precisely in the upper torso, the Bodkin point, penetrating with devastating effectiveness. The impact occurred so suddenly and silently that Weber had no opportunity to cry out or signal alarm. He collapsed immediately behind the observation post's protective barrier, invisible to his fellow sentries but clearly visible to the British commandos, watching from their elevated position. Morrison stared in amazement as Weber's form disappeared from view without any audible disturbance. The German sentry had simply vanished from his post as if he had never existed. No alarm sounded, no other guards reacted, and no evidence remained of the encounter except for Churchill's satisfied expression and the suddenly unoccupied observation platform. The psychological impact on Churchill's teammates was immediate and profound. Hayes later admitted that watching the silent elimination of a modern soldier by a medieval weapon challenged his fundamental understanding of military effectiveness. Fletcher described feeling as though he had witnessed something from a different era entirely, where ancient skills suddenly proved superior to contemporary technology. Weber's disappearance went unnoticed by the remaining German forces for nearly 20 minutes. The observation post's elevated position and protective barriers concealed his fallen form from other sentries, while his regular communication schedule did not require immediate contact. This delay provided crucial time for the commando team to advance their mission objectives without detection. The elimination of the primary observation post transformed the tactical situation entirely. Morrison quickly revised his infiltration plan to take advantage of the newly created blind spot in German surveillance. The team could now approach the village through previously impossible routes, significantly improving their chances of gathering intelligence without detection. Churchill's success with the longbow also had unexpected psychological effects on German morale when Weber's fate was eventually discovered. The arrow shaft remaining in the observation post created confusion and uncertainty about the nature of the attack. German soldiers struggled to understand how their comrade had been eliminated by what appeared to be a medieval weapon, leading to widespread speculation about unconventional enemy capabilities. Major Brenner's investigation of Weber's position revealed the arrow shaft and confirmed the extraordinary nature of the attack. Brenner had extensive combat experience, but had never encountered archery weapons in modern warfare. The incident forced him to reconsider his assumptions about Allied tactics and capabilities, introducing elements of uncertainty into his defensive planning. The commando team successfully completed their intelligence-gathering objectives, while German forces remained confused about the nature and scope of the enemy presence. Churchill's unconventional approach had not only eliminated a key obstacle, but also created psychological advantages that extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. During the extraction phase, Morrison openly acknowledged that Churchill's archery skills had proven more effective than conventional weapons would have been under the specific circumstances. The captain's report emphasized the value of unconventional thinking and specialized skills in modern military operations. Morrison recommended that future commando units consider incorporating personnel with unusual but potentially valuable capabilities. Hayes spent considerable time examining Churchill's bow and arrows after the mission, gaining new appreciation for the engineering principles behind traditional weapons. The demolitions expert discovered that the longbow's simplicity actually represented sophisticated mechanical design optimized for specific performance requirements. Hayes began incorporating lessons about technological effectiveness versus technological complexity into his own tactical thinking. Fletcher's experience with Churchill's archery demonstration influenced his approach to communications equipment and battlefield problem-solving. The radio operator realized that the most advanced technology was not always the most appropriate solution for specific tactical situations. Fletcher developed greater flexibility in his equipment choices and operational methods, Based on this expanded understanding, the mission's success led to broader examination of unconventional warfare techniques within Allied Special Operations units. Churchill's archery skills became legendary among commando personnel, though few attempted to replicate his specific approach. The incident demonstrated that individual expertise in unusual areas could provide significant tactical advantages when properly applied. Weber's elimination remained a source of confusion and concern among German coastal defense units for months following the incident. The psychological impact of facing enemies capable of using medieval weapons effectively created uncertainty about Allied capabilities and intentions. German commanders struggled to develop countermeasures against threats that defied conventional military categories. Churchill continued serving with distinction throughout the conflict, consistently demonstrating that unconventional approaches could achieve results unavailable through standard methods. His longbow accompanied him on numerous operations, though the Vargso mission remained his most celebrated archery achievement. The weapon proved effective in situations requiring absolute silence and precision beyond conventional firearms capabilities. The broader military establishment gradually recognized the value of specialized skills that complemented rather than replaced modern equipment. Churchill's example influenced recruitment and training policies that sought personnel with unusual but potentially valuable capabilities. The military began understanding that technological advancement did not necessarily render all traditional skills obsolete. Post-conflict analysis of the Vargso operation emphasized the importance of individual initiative and unconventional thinking in special operations contexts. Military historians noted that Churchill's success resulted from combining ancient skills with modern tactical understanding, creating capabilities that neither approach could achieve independently. The mission became a case study in adaptive problem-solving under combat conditions. The longbow that eliminated Weber from 95 yards eventually found its way into a military museum, where it stands as a testament to the enduring value of traditional craftsmanship and individual expertise. Visitors often struggle to understand how such a seemingly primitive weapon could prove decisive in modern warfare, much as Churchill's fellow commandos initially doubted its effectiveness. The psychological transformation experienced by Morrison, Hayes, and Fletcher reflected broader changes in military thinking during the conflict. Professional soldiers gradually learned to value effectiveness over technological sophistication, recognizing that the best solution to any tactical problem might come from unexpected sources. This flexibility of thinking proved crucial for success in unconventional warfare environments. Churchill's archery skills represented more than mere individual eccentricity. They embodied principles of precision, patience, and unconventional problem-solving that proved invaluable throughout his military career. The longbow's success at Vargso demonstrated that traditional skills, when properly applied by expert practitioners, could complement and even surpass modern technologies in specific situations. The German forces never fully understood the nature of the attack that eliminated Weber from his observation post. Military intelligence reports struggled to categorize an incident involving medieval weapons used by modern commandos, creating confusion that extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. This uncertainty contributed to German overestimation of Allied special operations capabilities. The incident at Vargso became part of Churchill's growing reputation as an unconventional warrior who achieved remarkable results through unexpected methods. His fellow soldiers learned to respect rather than mock his archaic preferences, recognizing that effectiveness mattered more than conformity to standard equipment preferences. Churchill's example encouraged other military personnel to develop and maintain specialized skills that might prove valuable in unexpected circumstances. Weber's elimination by arrow demonstrated the continued relevance of fundamental military principles despite technological advancement. Surprise, precision, and appropriate tool selection remained crucial factors for tactical success regardless of the specific weapons employed. Churchill's longbow provided these elements more effectively than conventional alternatives under the specific conditions at Vargso. The mission's success influenced Allied special operations doctrine, by demonstrating the value of personnel with diverse skill sets and unconventional capabilities. Military planners began recognizing that rigid adherence to standard equipment and procedures could limit tactical flexibility in dynamic combat environments. Churchill's archery achievement became an example of adaptive thinking that maximized available resources for mission success. And that concludes our story. If you made it this far, please share your thoughts in the comments. What part of this historical account surprised you most? Don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from World War II and check out the video on screen for another incredible tale from history. Until next time.